The last days of the Powell estate, more like the last day of 2025. This came out in October. I am so behind on the back catalogue. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. TARDIS, and in case you've been living under a rock, the Ninth Doctor is back for some brand new audio adventures with Big Finish Productions, and he's brought Billie Piper and Camille Coduri along with him, who are playing Rose Tyler and Jackie Tyler. It's like 2005 all over again, with the last story, Snare, and the next one, Dare You, take place on Earth in the Powell estate. However, while the last story, Snare, written by Tim Foley, picked up after the events of Father's Day, the Series 1 Episode 8 story, returning Rose back to Powell estate in the present day, as in 2006-2005 present day, the last days of the Powell estate actually moves us further in the chronology of the fictional council setting to 2036. And a lot has happened to planet Earth in the past 30 years, and the Powell estate is basically a dilapidated, empty setting now. No one lives there, it's been abandoned, there was a communications blackout on Earth a few years ago, and the only person there now in 2036 is a tourist, Ellis Coates, played by Harky Bambra, who is a vlogger who is documenting the dilapidated council estate. He has a video series called Total Abandon, which honestly is just the best sort of name for a show where you go to these dilapidated places. And while there, Ellis bumps into the Ninth Doctor and Rose, who have stumbled across here because of some weird time machinations. Basically, there's an entity in the Powell estate, and Rose and the Doctor have landed in what the Doctor describes as a multi-dimensional parajunction, where the events of time are in flux, and this might not actually be the defined future of the Powell estate. And the creature that's there is a strange mystical serial killer called Mr. Fingers, voiced by Dan Starkey. And the lore behind Mr. Fingers is that if you feel a hand on your shoulder, if that happens twice and you turn around, you die. So it's up to the Doctor and Rose and Ellis to figure out what's happening on the Powell estate and to not get killed by Mr. Fingers.
Rose, no!
Gotta call her. Gotta call my mum.
You can't. You simply can't. It's a parajunction. If this creature clocks what we're doing, it could run riot now and 30 years ago at the same time. If it accumulates enough power, it'll feed on the whole city, then the whole planet.
But I've only got one parent left.
I know, but we need to find out much more before we can call her. We need to know what this creature can and can't do. Ellis, can that drone of yours fly high enough to get us an image of the whole estate?
Sure can.
Let's go over to the roof edge, try and locate where the temporal disruption's at its angriest. Rose, take this. Keep firing it on that setting, against the TARDIS lock. Who knows, you might trigger a connection. And don't call your mum, promise?
Yeah, promise.
Now, I was really looking forward to the last days of the Powell estate, and not just because it's another Ninth Doctor story, but because it was written by Timothy X. Atack. Now, Timothy X. Atack is one of my favourite Big Finish Doctor Who writers. He's written some incredible War Doctor stories, like the 2024 epic Unknown Soldiers, and the War Doctor Begins Rewind from the Battlegrounds box set, which is one of my favourite Big Finish stories of the past decade so far. He has also written some brilliant Ninth Doctor adventures. He wrote Planet of the End in the Respond to All Calls box set, and also the terrific Salvation 9 in Into the Stars. This is the Ninth Doctor Sontaran story. He's a writer who really excels in big, high-concept sci-fi drama, and I was really looking forward to what he would do with the last days of the Powell estate. And honestly, by Timothy X. Atack's standards, it's really restrained and laid back. In fact, the most interesting thing that this story does structurally is incorporate Rose's superphone. If you remember, in The End of the World, the Doctor upgraded Rose's phone so it can communicate through time, so she's able to talk to her family in a different linear time. And what they do with this is that they take Rose's Nokia from 2005 and they use it to message and ring Jackie, who's back in 2006, and they use Jackie and her friend Brainy Betty, played by Mandy Simmons, to effectively lay the groundwork for what they're going to do in 2036 to stop Mr. Fingers. And that sounds really interesting, and conceptually it's fascinating to base a Ninth Doctor and Rose audio on Rose's superphone, but I think they could have taken this 20 times further. They could have had so much more fun and experimentation with this idea, but all they do is that they text Jackie a shopping list, and then Jackie and Betty have to get those things and hide them for 30 years. And that's basically it. There's a bit of drama where there's a character limit on old-fashioned texts. But as somebody who did text people back in 2005, the character limit doesn't matter because it just sends one bigger text and it counts as like 2 or 3 texts. Like, that's so weird. I don't know why they made that a focal point of the drama, because that's not how phones worked in 2005. But speaking of 2005, Rose Tyler throws out a Little Britain reference, and yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's 2005. That's her frame of reference for comedy. That's a really nice touch. But conversely, pairing Rose up with Ellis means that she has no frame of reference for online vlogging, for drones or streaming video platforms. He mentions that he's got a chart-topping vlog and millions of people view him online, and Rose has like no frame of reference for this. There's no YouTube or Apple Podcasts or whatever in 2005, and or at least like wait, when did YouTube start? Okay, I've just double checked. The very first YouTube video was in April 2005. Doctor Who came back at the end of March 2005, so if the Doctor had been 1 month later to kidnap Rose at the end of Rose before the events of Aliens of London where she disappears for a year, yeah, Rose has missed out on YouTube just by a month. So yeah, pairing Rose up with Ellis is a cool idea in concept, but once again, I think they could have taken the idea of Ellis vlogging these dilapidated spaces way further. He's got a super advanced drone, which is 10 years further than drones that we've got in 2025, obviously, but they don't really utilize it. I think they could have taken the technology and really experimented with the ideas a lot more with Ellis. And the same with Brainy Betty in the past with Jackie, who does have a lot of depth to her. We just don't get it until the very end of the story when, for all intents and purposes, it kind of stops mattering. And as for Mr. Fingers, it's a creepy idea, this multi-dimensional creature that lives between the dimensions. The Doctor calls it a hyphen, as in a hyphen character that's between words. But honestly, I think that was more an idea for the screen. I think in audio, I just didn't feel the threat. And I mentioned earlier, and he's in the credits, that Dan Starkey voices Mr. Fingers, but I don't remember or recall Mr. Fingers saying or vocalizing anything. Like, am I going mad? Like, I genuinely don't remember any sort of voice for Mr. Fingers in this story. I don't know, maybe I'll listen to it again and he gets a monologue that I've just completely forgotten, like the silence in, you know, from the TV series. But I'm sensing a pattern here with this story. The Superphone, Ellis, Brainy Betty, Mr. Fingers, cool ideas in and of themselves, but you could have taken them so much further, and as a result, I kind of walked away from the last days of the Powell estate a bit underwhelmed and disappointed. Like, there's some cool moments. I think the climax is great when the Doctor and Rose try and trap Mr. Fingers, and the Doctor is forced to vocalise his biggest fear because that's what the hyphen feeds off of. And Christopher Eccleston is great where he talks about his anxieties around the Time War and the fallout from it. You know, that's some really cool stuff and it's fan-pleasing. But apart from that, not really that much stood out for me here. The last days of the Powell estate is fine, but I think it could have been so much better. Hi, Winnie. I think it's paced pretty well. I was never really bored from it, but I was never really enthralled or thoroughly engaged with the last days of the Powell estate. And while I did really like Snare, I think the last days of the Powell estate has kind of soured me on the Powell estate as a setting. Like, Powell estate, it's a fine setting, it's okay, but this story did not convince me that it's particularly interesting and compelling as like the heart of a story about, you know, what the Powell estate is. So the fact that the next story, Dare You, is going to return to the Powell estate again, I don't know, I think I'm getting a bit of Powell estate fatigue here. But anyway, am I wrong? Am I completely off base? I want to know your thoughts on Doctor Who The Last Days of the Powell Estate from the 9th Doctor Adventures with Christopher Eccleston and Billie Piper. I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, subscribe, hit the like button, all of that good stuff. And folks, I'll see you all next time. Alright, Winnie. Jump scare. You're not Mr. Fingers, you're Mrs. Toe Beans.